Good afternoon and welcome back to Yogi Cycle Service. For those of you who are new and haven't watched any of my videos, I ask you to stay, hang around, check out some of the other videos that I have out there, and I hope you enjoy them. And if you do, I ask you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up and like button. If you're a returning user, I thank you for coming back and watching today's episode. Today is episode number 3 for the starter rebuild episode. Yes, the saga continues. But we are going to finish this saga today, so we're going to close out this and get this bike running and back off the lift and out of my garage. So I hope you enjoy what we put together for you. I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, and thanks for watching. Do me a favor, if you like what you see, shoot me some comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for joining Yogi Clan. I'll see you soon. Okay, first order of business is to get that race off the main shaft. Here you can see Chuck, he's using what I believe is a gear splitter to go on either side of the race so he can pull that race off the main shaft. He's also going to get some hardware from Lowe's so he can make this custom tailor fit, make the application work. You'll see some more Lowe's hardware coming soon. You know, some parts of being a good mechanic is not necessarily having all the tools, but making the tools that you do have work. And Chuck is a master at that. I see I got a lot to learn from him. Let me tell you, getting this race off was a beast. It took a good 30 minutes to get this off. A lot of tapping to loosen it up. Some heat to heat it up. More cranking. More tapping, more cranking, and more heat. Finally, it gives way, it breaks loose. Meanwhile, I'm on the other side pulling the transmission case out. Rather, pulling the cassette out of the transmission case. So now we're getting ready to pull, this is the 6th gear that's in there. We're getting ready, we have to pull that out first so we can get access to the bearing. So we're going to get some rod stock, again, that we got from Lowe's. He's going to bring his gear splitting tool over to the other side, put a washer and a nut on it, and then go ahead and crank down on that and pull that gear through from the other side. What's the saying? Necessity is the mother of all invention. Now we successfully got it pulled. He pulls the gear out of the case and you can see the destroyed bearing on the gear. So that's the busted one. This is the one that's still whole. The other one just disintegrated inside there.
And can you see the uneven finish on that race?
Yeah. It's like beveled.
Yeah, that shiny spot, yeah, or dull spot, yeah, that's where the bearing was starting to eat into the race. So this was bad all over.
And for quite some time.
Yeah.
So after we got the remaining race off the gear, it's time to start reassembly. So he lightly puts that bearing in there. He's going to go ahead and just get it seated by tapping on it. And then take a piece of the old bearing, put it over the top and tap it in a little deeper. And then to get a nice flat tap, he's going to put a plate on it with an extension and go ahead and drive it home. Get that bearing seated. Next, we're inspecting the gear before we install it. There are some needle beam bearings inside, and we're checking to make sure that they were still okay and whole and not disintegrating also. So it's important to check all your bearings before reassembly. Satisfied with the way it looks, we're going to go ahead and put a new seal in the end of that 6th gear before we install it. So if you remember from the last video, we heated up that whole area. So we want to make sure the seal is solid before we put the gear back inside the case. On the other side, we'll go ahead and insert it, and then we're going to tap it again with another flat plate and extension like we used on the other side, and seat that gear all the way in. You can tell when it's seated when you hear a clunk. You can tell the sound is different and that it's seated all the way home.
Yeah, that sounds solid.
Yeah. Hey, we gotta get this through. Oh, you got it started? Alright, that's through. Okay. We gotta make sure we hold this up when we put that transmission in there. Put something underneath it. Yeah. There. Alright, now with that gear seated, we can go ahead and put your gasket on. And go ahead and put that transmission cassette back into the case. Be sure to use all new gaskets when putting this back together. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in and then put 2 bolts to temporarily hold it in place while Chuck works on the other side. You can see I had to take the exhaust pipe off. It's just kind of sitting in my lap temporarily while I get this transmission put together and get some of these bolts started. Once the new gasket and cover are on, I'll put the exhaust pipe back on. On the other side, Chuck is getting his gear splitter put back together because he's getting ready to put the race back on. So he's going to fire up the torch, heat up the race, and get it seated back on the main shaft. That bugger is hot. He's going to go ahead and just tap that back into place. Get himself a swig of something to drink. No, we're not sponsored by Mountain Dew. All right, time to put the pulley back on. The fresh nut. I'm going to go ahead and use the tool that we bought to get that torque down to spec. From there you can put on the lock plate. Make sure you use Loctite on the 2 screws that hold it in place. And then put his shift linkage back together. Remember, we replaced the seal in the last video.
Cogs on, lock plates on, shifter arms on, Loctite on the bolt.
This is where we were before you saw that leak behind the pulley, right?
We're back to where we were!
Pretty much, yeah.
Back to ground zero again. Yep. Now we're ready for the inner primary to go back on and the starter to go back in the hole. We're going to go ahead and test it before we put it fully back together. On the right hand side of the bike, we have the inner cover bolted, we have the outer transmission cover bolted, the top has new gasket on it, it's bolted down. This needs to be bolted in place with the wires attached. The exhaust pipe, it is bolted down here. It is bolted down here, but it needs to be tightened up here. We gotta tighten the 2 nuts up on this side and put the muffler on. Let's go ahead and tighten everything up as we just talked about. Tighten up the electrical coming down from the battery. exhaust put back together, and the muffler installed. I'm going to put the drain plug back in and fill it up with transmission fluid. Are those? No, they're not supposed to be notched like that, are they?
Right.
Wow. Yeah, you can really see that. Hey, you can really see that. You want to see it?
Well, this is my honest assessment of it. If you're going to put a shoe in it in the future, this is a future thing. It's not a wear item. Like it doesn't move in and out. It doesn't move around. It's on there. In the future, it's not going to obviously get any better. But that would be a future thing that you would think about when we figure out how to replace the shoe, or if you have to get a whole assembly for the shoe.
If we're going to do that, then I would go with it's like $100, $110 for the
Auto adjusting.
the one that I have on the Fat Boy.
Yeah.
So do you have to change out that whole thing, or can you get
Well,
the
it's just a centerpiece, but I don't know what it takes. I mean, the whole clutch hub has to come apart, but I'm sure that piece, is replaceable on its own.
You're good with me rehooking back up electrical, I assume, right?
Yeah, but that's why we had such a problem getting this off of there.
All right, let's get the clutch hub back on. Get the chain put back on. Get the compensating sprocket put back together. And torque everything down to spec. You can see he's using a torque wrench with a digital readout. I think he did 80 on the clutch and 150 on the compensator sprocket. So go ahead and put the adjustment back in the clutch. Put the shoe, chain tensioner shoe back in. Get everything tightened down. Put his snap ring back in for the clutch adjustment plate. He's going to go ahead and loosen up the cable on the front, and I'm going to adjust the clutch. Once this is done, we're going to go ahead and pull the spark plug wire and do a dry fire just to make sure that everything works properly.
Yep.
Sounds like it's engaging right to me, doesn't it, do you?
Yeah. Sounds a lot better than it did.
Yes.
I didn't hear it before, but
Oh yeah. Oh, it's all balls now.
It was evil grinding noise before.
Yeah. And we upgraded to all balls.
Yes, there's an all balls starter gear in that new starter assembly. You can see the last video for details on that. So let's go ahead and get this cover back on, get the derby cover pulled off, and get some fluids back in it. We're almost there now. For the fluids, I just cut up a milk jug. It's free. Instead of using Harley's $15 or $20 tool, just use a milk jug. Little tip. All right, from here, it's just put on the floorboards, put on the shifter pegs, and we're good. Done. All right, let's get this bad boy down off the lift. And oh yeah, I think I forgot to put the spark plugs in. Let's go ahead and take care of that real quick. And let's fire it up and see what happens. Fingers crossed. Fire it up.